3 years ago, I brought Vivian into the company. From intern to HR director, I spoke up for her every time she got promoted. The layoff list had 23 people on it. I was first. She put me there. Wendy, I really had no choice. Her eyes were red. It came from upstairs. I said nothing. Her phone buzzed. Anand's message. Pinned contact, marked with a red heart. The avatar was a man's profile. A dark blue plaid shirt. The one I had ironed for Henry myself last night. Henry was my husband. I put the list back in my bag and stood up. Vivian, the shirt on your pinned contact. I ironed it last night. Her face went white. Wendy, wait. Vivian's voice chased after me into the hallway, thick with tears. I didn't look back. My heels clicked against the tile, one step at a time. The elevator doors opened, and she caught up, grabbing my arm. You misunderstood. That person isn't Henry. Dark blue plaid shirt, with a tiny burn hole under the left chest pocket. I looked at her hand. I accidentally scorched it while ironing last night. Her fingers loosened. Wendy. Vivian. I pressed the elevator button. When you cry, your left eye goes red first, then the right one follows. You've used that trick on me for 3 years. It doesn't work very well anymore. The elevator doors closed. I leaned against the wall and watched the numbers drop. Basement 1. Parking garage. I got into the car and shut the door. My phone lit up. It was a message. Vivian sent me a voice note, but I didn't open it. Then another text came in. Wendy, if you don't believe me, you can ask Henry directly. He'll explain. I stared at that line for 10 seconds. Then I opened Henry's ins. Last Wednesday, he posted a photo of coffee with the caption, "Working late into the night. A cup of coffee someone brought me felt extra warm." That night, he told me he was at the office rushing a proposal. I hadn't brought him any coffee. The first comment was from Vivian. You worked hard, heart. Henry replied with a smiling emoji. I kept scrolling. A month ago, he said he was taking clients out to golf. He didn't post any photos on ins. But Vivian did. A beach, a sunset, a red bikini with the caption, "Be nicer to me on vacation." In the bottom right corner of the second photo, there was a man's hand, with a wedding ring I knew very well on the ring finger. The scratch was on the left side. Henry always used his left hand on the steering wheel when he drove, and that was where it had worn. I exited ins and started the car. By the time I got home, it was 7:30. Henry leaned out of the kitchen and smiled. You're back? Why so early today? Nothing to do, so I came home. Wash your hands and eat. The steak just came off the pan. At the dinner table, he served me food and talked about work today. Remember that finance guy, Mark? He printed 1 extra 0 on the report today. The boss thought our department's revenue had multiplied by 10. He was happy for a whole hour. He laughed naturally. I laughed too. By the way, he said, did you iron that blue plaid shirt for me? I've got an important meeting tomorrow. It's hanging in the 3rd section of the closet. Thanks, babe. He reached over and squeezed my fingers. His fingertips were warm. After dinner, he went to wash the dishes. I went into the bedroom and opened the closet. The blue plaid shirt was hanging there. I took it down and brought it close to my nose. Under the scent of laundry detergent, there was a very faint fragrance. Bleu de Chanel. I had given it to Vivian on her birthday 3 years ago. I love it so much. She had hugged me and said, Wendy, you are the best person in the world to me. I hung the shirt back up. Inside the pocket, my fingers found a crumpled receipt. Blue Mountain Coffee, 2 cups. 1 Americano, 1 less sweet latte. I drink Americano. Henry drinks Americano too. Who was the less sweet latte for? The sound of water in the bathroom stopped, and he came out wrapped in a bath towel. Babe, I may come back a little late tomorrow. I've got a project to finish up. Okay. Don't stay up too late. He kissed my forehead. Henry. How long has it been since you spent our wedding anniversary with me? His movement paused. Didn't we last month? Last month you said you had a sudden business trip. Right, that client couldn't be pushed off. Did that client wear a red bikini? His expression flickered, then returned to normal. What are you talking about? The client was a bald guy in his 50s. Oh, why are you suddenly bringing this up? Nothing. There's a little hole under your shirt pocket. I accidentally made it while ironing. Don't mind it. I don't mind. He smiled. You ironed it for me. Even the hole looks good. The lights went out. In the dark, his breathing gradually evened out. My eyes stayed open. At 2 in the morning, his phone lit up once. A pop-up's message appeared on the screen, marked Project Team Kevin. Hubby, I already handled what happened last time. She won't get a chance to turn it around. Don't worry. Followed by a kiss emoji. Hubby. Turn it around. The screen went dark. Henry rolled over and draped an arm over my waist. Babe. He mumbled indistinctly. I didn't move. Good night, I said. No one answered. Here, I bought you coffee and unsweetened Americano. Vivian stood in front of my desk, smiling gently, holding a Starbucks cup. With her other hand, she lightly rested against my shoulder. I thought about what happened yesterday all night. It really was the call from upstairs. I fought for you. I took the coffee. Thanks. What you said yesterday about the shirt. She lowered her voice and leaned in. My boyfriend happens to have the same one. We just ended up in matching clothes, so don't overthink it. Your boyfriend? Yeah, we've only been dating 2 months. We haven't made it public yet. She winked. I'll introduce you someday. Okay. She walked away smiling. I took a sip of the coffee. Americano, but with sugar added. I never put sugar in my Americano. She remembered that Henry drank less sweet lattes, but she couldn't remember my taste. At 10 in the morning, my coworker Zoe passed by my desk, put down a stack of files and said quietly, "Director Wendy, there's something I don't know if I should tell you." Say it. She looked around and pulled me into the break room. That layoff list. I saw 3 versions on the printer. 3 versions. The first version had 15 people, and you weren't on it. The second had 20 people, and you were 8th. The third one is the current one, with 23 people, and you're first. Who changed it? Vivian. All 3 versions' edit logs are under her account. Every time someone got added, Zoe bit her lip. It was always someone you brought up. I said nothing. And there's one more thing. Zoe lowered her voice. Did you see last week's annual department evaluation report? I submitted it. Not your version. She pulled out her phone and showed me a screenshot. On the screen, under the department evaluation section, Wendy, average coordination ability, domineering management style, poor team cohesion, recommends salary reduction, transfer, or optimization. A red X was marked after my name. Here's another section for job recommendations. Zoe turned to the next page. Vivian wrote that her assistant, Emma, should take your place. Someone who's been here less than half a year. When was this report submitted? 2 weeks ago. 3 days before the layoff list. Is the original report still in the system? Yes, but the permissions were changed. Only Vivian and the admin can see it. I found it when IT restored a batch of files during system maintenance last week. Zoe looked at me. Director Wendy, she did this on purpose. I knew that. At noon, Vivian came to find me again. She sat across from me and put a chicken wing into my bowl. Wendy, eat more. You've lost weight lately. Emma. How about hot pot tonight? Let's call Henry too. We haven't gotten together in a long time. He's working late tonight. Then it'll just be the 2 of us. She took my hand in hers. Wendy, no matter what happens, you're my best friend. Her palm was warm. The same temperature as when Henry had squeezed my fingers last night. Vivian. That new boyfriend of yours. What does he do? Her eyes flickered. Finance. Which company? A small company. You wouldn't know it. What's his name? Wendy, why are you so interested in my boyfriend? She smiled. Jealous. Just asking. In the afternoon, I went into HR's shared folder. I didn't have admin privileges, but the back-end entry for the old system hadn't been closed yet. 3 minutes later, I found every file Vivian had submitted. Besides the altered evaluation report, there was one more thing. The title was Core Employee Seating Adjustment Plan. The content was simple. Move Wendy's desk from the 8th floor department area to the 3rd floor administrative area. The reason given was optimizing office space. 3rd floor admin. Next to the bathroom drain pipe, with no windows. She had even planned where I would sit. At the bottom of the file was a note. It wasn't Vivian's handwriting. Confirmed with HR. Execute next Monday. Henry. My husband's name appeared on a file that moved me next to the bathroom. I opened the company directory and searched for Henry. One result. Finance Department. Senior Finance Manager. Start date, 2 years ago. 2 years ago, he told me he was switching to an investment company. The company's not big. You wouldn't know it even if I told you. It was exactly what Vivian had just said. He had been working at my company for 2 years. In the same building. I was on the 8th floor, and he was on the 10th. Between us was the 9th floor, HR Vivian's floor. My phone rang. Henry. Babe. What do you want for dinner tonight? Anything's fine. What's wrong with your voice? Just a little tired. Then get off work early. I'll be waiting for you at home. I hung up. Then I pulled up the screenshot of that message from midnight. Project Team Kevin. Hubby. She won't get a chance to turn it around. Don't worry. Kevin. Vivian, you really are something. Director Wendy. You should attend the management meeting this afternoon. My assistant Lily came in carrying a file, her expression strange. What's the topic? Director Vivian is hosting it. Budget review for each department, and the personnel optimization plan. At 2 in the afternoon, more than a dozen people were seated in the conference room. Vivian stood in front of the projector in a white turtleneck sweater, elegant and gentle. Everyone, the company is under some pressure this year, so we need to improve efficiency. She clicked to the next slide. Let's start with each department's mid-year performance. A table appeared on the screen. Marketing, 120% completion. Tech, 115%. Sales, 98%. Operations, my department, 47%. 47%. I had led my team to 18 million in revenue in the first half of the year, with a target of 20 million. The completion rate was 90%, not 47%. The operations department's performance is indeed not ideal. Vivian sounded regretful as she looked at me. Director Wendy has worked hard too, but data doesn't lie. How is this data calculated? I asked. By finance. She looked at me. Do you have an objection? The data I submitted was 18 million, with a 90% completion rate. Finance recalculated it. The revenue attribution for a few projects was adjusted. What was the basis for the adjustment? That's a professional financial judgment. I'm not too familiar with it. She flipped through the file in her hand. If you have questions, you can confirm them with finance after the meeting. And, she continued, after a comprehensive evaluation, the operations department ranked last in productivity across all departments. So the layoff list has a high proportion of people from operations. Out of the 23 people, 14 came from my department. More than half of them were going to be laid off. Wendy, she called me by my nickname in front of everyone. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. It's not a personal problem. It's the bigger environment. Gentle. Considerate. Like she was feeling sorry for me. In reality, she had just used fake data to sentence my department to death. After the meeting, I went straight to the finance department on the 10th floor. I found Roger, the finance supervisor. Supervisor Roger, what standard was used to adjust operations revenue accounting? Roger pushed up his glasses. Last month, Director Vivian brought over an adjustment request saying the revenue attribution of 3 projects needed to be reassigned, from operations to marketing. Who signed it? The process requires the department liaison's signature for confirmation. Roger handed me the file. On the signature line was a very familiar handwriting. Henry. This Henry. I pointed at the signature. Which department is he from? Finance. He handles cross-department accounting coordination. Roger looked at me. Director Wendy doesn't know him? He's been here 2 years. I know him. When I walked out of the 10th floor, the window at the end of the hallway was open. The November wind blew in, cold enough to bite. Henry had worked at the company for 2 years. He had helped Vivian adjust my department's data. He had signed it. Then he went home and cooked me steak, kissed my forehead, and said, "Babe, you've worked hard." I took the elevator down to basement 1 and found Henry's car, the one from my dowry. The car wasn't locked. There was a beige silk scarf on the passenger seat. Hermes. The one Vivian usually wore. I opened the glove compartment and found a hotel receipt inside. 4 Seasons Hotel, Presidential Suite. Spent $8,600. Date: October 15th. That was our 3rd wedding anniversary. Henry said he had flown to Miami for a business trip. He even sent me a photo of the beach. I replied at the time, "The beach looks so beautiful. Take me there next time." He said, "Definitely." Hanging from the rearview mirror were a pair of keychains. 2 teddy bears, one red and one blue, with 2 letters engraved on the base, W and H. Wendy and Henry, not T and H. I took a photo of the receipt and put the keychain in my pocket. When I got back to my desk, Zoe came over again. Director Wendy, Vivian was just in the break room telling a few department heads. She hesitated. The exact words. She said, "Wendy has been very unstable emotionally since she found out about the layoffs, and she was saying some pretty out there things in my office yesterday. Please be understanding with her, she's really pitiful." Unstable. Out there. Pitiful. Once those 3 labels were stuck on me, anything I said later would be treated like the ramblings of someone having an emotional breakdown. My phone rang. Vivian. Wendy, where do you want to go for dinner tonight? You decide. How about a steakhouse? You said last time you wanted pizza. Vivian. Where were you on October 15th? The line went quiet for 3 seconds. Wendy, why are you suddenly asking that? That was my wedding anniversary. Henry was away on a business trip, and I was at home alone eating instant noodles. I wanted to know whether everyone else had a better day than I did. 3 more seconds of silence. I was working overtime that day. I was at the company until very late by myself. Oh, that must have been hard too. Yeah. So 7 o'clock at the steakhouse. Okay. I hung up. The hotel receipt showed a check-in time of 3 in the afternoon. Working late into the night. Vivian, your overtime spot is really upscale. The steakhouse sat on the 32nd floor of an uptown tower, dimly lit with low amber lights and velvet-lined booths. When I walked in, Vivian was already there. She was sitting in a corner booth, wearing a cream cashmere sweater that cut low at the collar. Across from her sat a man whose back was turned to the door, a dark blue plaid shirt. The tiny burn hole under the left chest pocket was visible right beneath the low glow of the brass table lamp. Henry was sitting there. I walked over calmly. My heels didn't make a sound on the thick carpet. As I approached, Vivian was reaching across the table, her thumb gently wiping a smear of red sauce from the corner of Henry's mouth. Her expression was tender, soft, almost maternal. "You eat like a kid when you're tired," she murmured. Henry laughed, tilting his head into her hand. "Work's been crazy. You know how much effort it took to pull off that data shift for." He stopped mid-sentence. His eyes caught my reflection in the dark glass window beside them. The smile froze on his face. Vivian's hand stayed suspended in midair for half a second before she yanked it back as if she'd touched hot iron. "Wendy." Henry stood up so fast his knee slammed into the table, sending the water glasses rattling. You're here." "I invited her," Vivian chimed in quickly, her voice instantly pitching up into that familiar, sweet tone. Her left eye turned red instantly, tears brimming. "Right on cue. Wendy, I know you've been under so much stress lately." Henry told me you guys haven't had a nice meal together in weeks, so I thought I'd bring him along to surprise you." "A surprise?" I repeated, standing at the edge of the table. "Yeah," Henry stammered, wiping his hands on his napkin. His knuckles were white. "Vivian called me an hour ago saying you were feeling down about the company restructuring." I rushed over straight from the office. I looked at the table. 2 plates of ribeye. 1 medium rare, 1 rare. 1 glass of Cabernet, 1 glass of sparkling water with lemon. And right next to Henry's water glass sat a small velvet box from Cartier, unopened, but placed right on Vivian's side of the table. "Rushed over from the office?" I asked, setting my leather tote down on the empty seat. "In an hour?" "Yeah, traffic was terrible. The finance department on the 10th floor emptied out at 5 today," I said, smoothly taking my seat. "I know because I was down in the basement garage at 5:30, taking photos of the Four Seasons hotel receipt in your glove compartment." The silence that fell over the table was heavy enough to crush bone. Henry's face drained of color so fast he looked like a corpse. Vivian's mouth opened slightly, but no sound came out. "Wendy." Henry's voice was a whisper. "What receipt?" "The one dated October 15th, I said, reaching into my purse, pulling out my phone and placing it flat on the mahogany table. "The presidential suite. $8,600. The night you told me you were in Miami eating bad airport sandwiches." Vivian swallowed hard. Her right eye finally caught up with her left, a single tear rolling down her cheek. "Wendy, listen to me," she sobbed, reaching across the table to grab my wrist. "It's not what you think. That receipt, that was for a client. A high net worth client from the coast. Henry couldn't put it on the corporate card because of tax limits, so he used his personal card and you wore your red bikini for the client too?" I looked straight into her eyes. Or was the red bikini just part of the corporate hospitality package? Vivian froze. The tear stuck on her cheek. Henry sank back into his chair. He looked at Vivian, then at me, his mouth opening and closing like a fish pulled out of water. "Wendy," Henry began, his voice trembling. "We can talk about this at home. This isn't the place." "We can talk about it right here," I interrupted. "Or we can talk about how you signed off on the revenue transfer that moved $18 million out of my department's ledger and into marketing." Henry's eyes went wide. This time, actual panic set in. Cheating on a wife was a personal betrayal. Forging financial records in a publicly traded firm was a federal crime. I didn't forge anything," Henry stammered, looking frantically around the restaurant to see if anyone was listening. That was an administrative adjustment requested by HR." "Requested by Vivian," I corrected. "Executed by you." I turned my gaze to Vivian. She had pulled her hand back and was staring at Henry with a look of pure, sharp calculation. The damsel in distress routine was gone, replaced by the cold instinct of a rat trapped in a corner. "Henry, don't throw this on me," Vivian said, her tone suddenly dropping 2 octaves into something flat and dangerous. "You were the one who signed it. You're the finance manager. HR doesn't have the authority to alter ledger attribution. You told me it was completely legal. You told me it was the only way to get Emma promoted into the operations lead slot." Henry hissed back, leaning across the table at her. "You said Wendy was getting too powerful in the firm and she'd end up replacing the VP next year." I picked up my glass of water and took a small sip. It was almost funny. 2 minutes of pressure, and the star-crossed lovers were already biting each other's throats to save their own skins. "Keep going," I said quietly. "I'm taking notes." Henry shut his mouth instantly. Vivian bit her lower lip so hard a drop of blood almost appeared. Wendy, Vivian whispered, leaning in, her voice low and desperate. What do you want? If you go to the board with this, it ruins all of us. The company will sweep it under the rug anyway to protect their stock price, and you'll just get blacklisted from the industry. I won't be blacklisted, I said, standing up and pulling my purse over my shoulder. I looked down at the velvet Cartier box on the table, picked it up and tossed it casually into my purse. What are you doing? Vivian gasped. This was bought with money from our joint bank account, I replied, looking down at Henry. I'm taking what's mine. As for the rest. I leaned down close to Henry's ear. Don't bother coming home tonight, Henry. The locks were changed an hour ago. Your clothes are in trash bags out by the curb. The blue plaid shirt is right on top. By 8 the next morning, I was sitting in the corner booth of a quiet diner, 2 blocks from the corporate headquarters. Across from me sat Marcus Vance. Marcus was the vice president of internal audit, a 50-year-old former forensic accountant with silver-streaked hair and a reputation for being an absolute butcher during quarterly reviews. He was also the only person in C-suite who hated the current HR restructuring plan. I slid a sleek silver flash drive across the table, right next to his black coffee. What's this, Wendy? Marcus asked, not touching the drive. 18 months of audit trails, I said calmly, including the original system. Logs before Vivian changed the permissions, the raw revenue reports for operations, and 3 separate PDF versions of the layoff list. Marcus raised an eyebrow. You went into the legacy system? The backend port from the 2021 migration was never closed, I said. I know, because I managed that migration. On this drive, you'll find 16 instances of revenue diversion from operations to marketing over the past 2 quarters. Total amount shifted, $24.2 million. Marcus's hand finally moved. His thick fingers closed over the flash drive. Why shift it to marketing? He asked. Because marketing's VP is retiring in December, I explained, leaning forward. Vivian's plan wasn't just to push me out. She was building a portfolio for herself to jump from HR director to VP of marketing. And she used Henry in finance to approve the ledger shifts to make marketing's numbers look legendary. Marcus took a slow sip of his coffee. A faint, cold smile touched his lips. And your husband? He signed all of these? Every single one. I said without a flicker of emotion in my voice. His signature is on the transfer vouchers. His employee ID is stamped on the ERP ledger edits. He's your husband, Wendy. He was my husband, I corrected. Now he's a liability. Marcus studied my face for a long 10 seconds. He didn't see a grieving, hysterical woman who had just found out her marriage was a sham. He saw an executive executing a surgical strike. The board meets at 2 o'clock today for the final sign-off on the layoff package, Marcus said, putting the flash drive into his breast pocket. Vivian is slated to present. I know, I said. That's why I brought you breakfast. At 1:45 p.m., I stepped out of the 8th floor elevator. The office was dead quiet. The air was thick with the strange metallic tension that always precedes a mass firing. People were sitting at their desks staring blankly at their monitors, barely touching their keyboards, waiting for the dreaded HR emails to drop. Zoe pulled me into the supply closet the moment I walked past. Director Wendy, her voice was shaking. Vivian just went up to the main boardroom on the 12th floor. She took Emma with her. They're already passing out the printed severance folders. Has Henry been up there? I asked. He was summoned to the VP's office half an hour ago, Zoe whispered, her eyes wide. He looked terrible. His suit was wrinkled, and his eyes were completely red. People are saying he slept in his car in the underground garage last night. Good, I said, adjusting the cuffs of my gray silk blouse. He likes being close to his work. Wendy, what are you going to do? I reached out and patted Zoe's shoulder gently. Did you back up your project? Files like I told you to yesterday? Yes. Everything's on an external drive. Good. Hold on to it. By 3 o'clock, operations is going to need a new department head. Zoe blinked. Who? I didn't answer. I just turned and walked toward the private elevator that went straight to the 12th floor executive suite. When the elevator doors opened on 12, the carpet was plush, absorbing every step. Through the glass walls of the main conference room, I could see the board. 7 senior executives sat around a massive oval table of polished walnut. At the head sat Arthur Sterling, the CEO, a man in his 60s who measured human worth strictly by stock ticker symbols. Vivian stood at the front of the room, holding a laser pointer, a glowing PowerPoint slide behind her. And by optimizing these 23 roles, Vivian's voice floated through the glass as I pushed the heavy door open. We reduce annual operational overhead by nearly 2.8 million, allowing us to reallocate capital toward our high-performing marketing channels. Click. The door closed behind me. Every head in the room turned. Vivian stopped mid-sentence. Her hand holding the presenter remote twitched. Wendy. Arthur Sterling frowned, adjusting his half-moon glasses. This is a closed executive review. HR hasn't called the affected individuals up yet. I know, Mr. Sterling, I said, walking smoothly to the empty end of the long table. I'm not here as an affected individual. I'm here as the director of operations presenting the true Q2 performance audit. Wendy, please, Vivian interrupted quickly, stepping forward with that practiced, pitying smile. She turned to the CEO with her hands clasped. Mr. Sterling, as I mentioned in my preliminary report, Wendy has been experiencing severe personal distress over the past 48 hours. Her emotional state is quite unstable right now. I suggested she take the day off, but she let the sentence hang, leaving a sweet, toxic cloud of insinuation in the room. Unstable. I laughed softly. It was a clear, cool sound that sliced right through her gentle routine. I looked directly at Arthur Sterling. Mr. Sterling, before you sign off on a layoff list that guts my department, perhaps you should ask Director Vivian why the numbers on her slide don't match the tax filings submitted to the SEC last Friday. The room went colder than an icebox. Arthur Sterling's eyes narrowed instantly. He was a man who didn't care about personal drama, but the letters SEC acted like a sharp alarm in his mind. What did you just say? Sterling asked, his voice dropping into a dangerous rumble. Wendy, that's enough. Vivian's sweet facade cracked entirely. Her voice went sharp and shrill. Security, please remove her. She's disrupting a high-level executive meeting. Nobody is moving. Marcus Vance's heavy voice boomed from the corner of the room. He stood up from his seat near the back, pulling a thick stack of printed ledger reports from his leather briefcase and tossing them straight into the center of the walnut table. Mr. Sterling, Marcus said calmly, audit received an anonymous internal tip 3 hours ago. We spent the morning cross-referencing our primary ERP servers with the secondary ledger logs. Operations didn't hit 47% of its target. They hit 90%. $18 million was manually redirected to marketing's balance sheet over 4 separate transactions. Sterling picked up the top sheet of the audit report. His eyes scanned the numbers rapidly. Who authorized these transfers? Sterling demanded. The signature on the manual overrides belongs to Senior Finance Manager Henry Miller, Marcus stated flatly, and the origin request was filed under the HR Director's administrative portal. Vivian. Vivian's face turned from pale to an unsightly mottled gray. She stumbled back half a step, her heels catching on the carpet. That's a mistake, she stammered, pointing a shaking finger at me. Henry did that on his own. He lied to me. He told me those were standard corporate adjustments. I didn't know. You didn't know? I pulled my phone out and tapped a button on the screen. A crystal-clear audio recording began playing through the conference room's Bluetooth sound system. It was Vivian's voice, recorded right from my desk phone 2 days ago when she thought she was off the record. Wendy has been very unstable emotionally since she found out about the layoffs. Please be understanding with her, she's really pitiful. Then came another voice recording, this one from the steakhouse last night, captured by my purse recorder. You were the one who signed it. You're the finance manager. You told me it was the only way to get Emma promoted into the operations lead slot. You said Wendy was getting too powerful in the firm, and she'd end up replacing the VP next year. The room was so quiet you could hear the hum of the air conditioning. Every single executive at that table sat frozen, staring at Vivian as her own voice laid bare every dirty, calculated piece of her scheme. Vivian collapsed into the nearest leather chair, her mouth working uselessly, no words coming out. Her eyes darted frantically around the room, looking for a single ally, a single face showing sympathy. There were none. Call legal, Sterling said quietly, his voice dangerously low. And call local law enforcement. I want an active fraud investigation launched before 5 o'clock. Mr. Sterling, please. Vivian burst into tears, real, terrifying tears this time, not her practice left-eye trick. I did it for the company. I was trying to optimize. Shut up, Sterling snapped, not even looking at her. He turned his eyes to me. Wendy. Yes, Mr. Sterling? The layoff list is cancelled immediately, Sterling said, ripping the printed folders in front of him in half. Operations retains its full budget. Furthermore, pending the legal resolution of this matter, HR will be placed under interim management. He looked at me intently. Can you handle operations and HR simultaneously until we find a permanent replacement? I stood tall. adjusting my blouse, looking down at Vivian, who was sobbing uncontrollably into her hands on the floor. I've been managing both behind the scenes for 3 years, Mr. Sterling, I said smoothly. I think I can handle it officially now. By 4 in the afternoon, 2 uniformed officers from the Financial Crimes Unit were standing in the 10th floor hallway. Henry was brought out of his office in handcuffs. His jacket was gone, his tie was crooked, and his dark blue plaid shirt, the one with the tiny burn hole under the chest pocket, was rumpled and stained with sweat. As the officers led him past the elevator bank, he saw me standing by the window holding a folder. Wendy, he screamed, trying to pull away from the officer gripping his arm. Wendy, tell them it was a misunderstanding. Tell them Vivian tricked me. I walked over slowly, my heels clicking rhythmically against the tile floor. I stopped 2 feet away from him. She didn't trick you, Henry, I said softly, so only he could hear. You were greedy. You wanted the young girl, you wanted the corporate promotion, and you wanted to keep my money and my dowry car while doing it. Wendy, please. Tears leaked out of his bloodshot eyes. I'm your husband. We've been together for 5 years. You can't let them ruin my life. You ruined your own life the second you printed that extra 0 on your integrity, I said coldly. I reached out, pulled the key fob for the dowry car from his pants pocket, and slid it into my own purse. The divorce papers will be served to your holding cell by 6 tonight. I added. I'm taking the apartment, the car, and the joint accounts. You can keep the plaid shirt. It suits you. The officers dragged him into the elevator. The doors closed, cutting off his desperate cries. Half an hour later, Vivian was escorted out of the building by corporate security. She wasn't in handcuffs, not yet, pending the grand jury review, but she was forced to carry her personal belongings in a plain cardboard box. Her desk was cleared out. Her name tag was peeled off the door. When she reached the glass lobby on the ground floor, I was standing near the entrance, watching her. Vivian stopped in front of me. Her face was swollen from crying, her hair messy, her white sweater stained with makeup. You ruined me, she whispered, her voice filled with a black, poisonous hatred. I trusted you. You brought me into this company. I brought you in because I thought you had talent, I said, looking down at her cardboard box. I defended you when you were an intern. I pushed for your promotions. And the moment you got a little power, you tried to destroy the person who gave it to you. You think you've won, she sneered, her left eye twitching. Henry has nothing. Now. You have no husband. You're alone. I stepped closer to her, leaning down slightly. I'm not alone, Vivian, I whispered. I have my career, my home, my money, and my self-respect. You, on the other hand. I reached out and plucked the small Hermes silk scarf from her cardboard box, the one she had left in Henry's car. You don't even have a blue plaid shirt left to iron. I tossed the scarf into the lobby trash bin right beside us. Goodbye, Vivian. 6 months later. The spring sun was bright, pouring through the floor-to-ceiling windows of my new office on the 12th floor. On the door, the silver plaque read, Wendy Chen, Vice President of Operations and Corporate Strategy. My assistant, Zoe, walked in, setting a fresh cup of unsweetened Americano on my mahogany desk. Morning, VP Wendy, Zoe smiled. The Q1 revenue figures just came in. Operations cleared $26 million, a new company record. Excellent, I said, taking a sip of the hot black coffee. How is the new HR team faring? Much better without the drama, Zoe giggled. Oh, and your attorney called. The final divorce decree was signed by the judge this morning. You are officially completely single. I set the cup down and picked up the legal document sitting on my desk. Henry had received a 2-year suspended sentence after pleading guilty to corporate record tampering, along with a massive fine that wiped out his entire personal savings. His name was blacklisted from every financial firm in the state. Last I heard, he was working night shifts at a suburban warehouse, living in a basement studio. Vivian's fate wasn't much better. The company sued her for breach of fiduciary duty, forcing her to forfeit all her previous bonuses and stock options. Without a reference and with a pending civil judgment on her record, she had been forced to move back to her hometown, working as a junior clerk in a small local agency. My phone screen lit up on the desk. It was a text from an unknown number. I opened it. Wendy, I'm so sorry. I was stupid. I miss you every day. Please give me one more chance. I'm at the coffee shop near your building. It was Henry. I stared at the message for 3 seconds. Then, I casually pressed the screen, tapped block contact, and deleted the thread without typing a single word. I looked out the high glass window over the glittering city skyline. The world outside was vast, bright, and completely clear. I took another sip of my coffee. It was bitter, hot, and completely pure. Just the way I liked it.